Podcast Evolved, your home for Halo.
Welcome, Spartans, to Podcast Evolved, your home for Halo. I am your host, Oran, and with me today we have David.
Hey, everybody.
And Josh.
Oh, I'm ready.
So, this is our third episode. This week we're launching our latest Evolve series, Infinite Impressions. And this is episode 3, Gray Team Impressions. So you have the three of us for this episode. It's our initial impressions of Halo Infinite, Oran, Josh, and David. We'll dive into it super quickly. But I just wanted to shout out, if you haven't, if you're otherwise unaware and you're familiar to the show, Josh is our friend and brother over at HCS Pro Talk, and he is joining us this evening. Josh, how are you?
I am great, and two things, Oren, I want to state. You know, we're part of Gray Team here for these impressions, but wouldn't that make us the Great Team?
You know, I think it does.
I like it.
I haven't heard anyone else say it, so I will say it.
I feel bad because I hate puns, but you know, there you go. And then the last thing I want to say is.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yes, I am from HCS Pro Talk, your weekly Halo esports podcast. But believe it or not, guys, I also play the campaigns. Who would have fucking thought? It's
what?
I know.
Oh my god.
We have thoughts to share. So yes,
oh my
obviously
gosh.
the campaign. We're gonna.
So you know what a Halo actually is?
Yeah, that's the green guy, right?
It's just the Halo guy.
He's not wrong.
It's
He's
the
not
guy.
wrong.
It's the guy. It's
you
the,
need
it's
to
the girl,
you need to replay the campaign again.
Damn it.
You
Which
weren't paying
one?
attention during
ODST, right? ODST is the one I play.
All right, guys, we got a great show for you all, but before we get started, let's do our housekeeping. We want to do a special shout out to our patrons for even allowing us to record 3 episodes in one day. There are some logistical things with that, so thank you guys so much for supporting us and allowing us to make the show as big as we can make it possibly be for you all. Our patrons receive a variety of exclusive rewards, such as early episodes, unique swag, and access to our exclusive soundtrack featuring 18 songs, which sounds super dope, and I kind of want to play it listening to it while playing Halo Infinite, because, not gonna lie, while we were waiting for Infinite to come out over the last year, I would just put it on and just get into the mood of working on the podcast and playing Halo. It's so good. Shout out to Troy who composed it, or Trey. Sorry, I messed that up. Shit. Lastly, if you want to encourage our listeners to support Audible, where they can enjoy the growing collection of Halo novels all in one place, along with thousands of other novels, guidance, wellness programs, and more. You could use the URL audibletrial.com/podcastevolve to learn more and start your free trial today. And that's all right. That's the bullshit out of the way, because everyone wants to know what's going on with the game. If you haven't been able to play it yet, or you're still fighting your way across Zeta Halo, we will be treating this episode as a non-spoilery impression of what we thought of the game. We will be talking about the game, so there are kind of spoilers in that regard, but nothing major, nothing story beats. We're not going to talk about cutscenes, unless it's in a very general sense. But I will say that most of this information comes from the first, I'd say, 4-ish missions, because the game doesn't start right on the ring. You kind of have to get there, and so there's a little bit of assumptions. But if you've been following any of the other news outlets like IGN, or even other Halo community people like Installation 00 or Halo Canon, they've had some non-spoiler impressions and first looks, and that's more or less what these episodes are designed of. This one, and if you listen to the other two, then you kind of already know, but in case this is your first episode of our kind of trio, that's our mindset for the game. We might talk a little bit about spoilers towards the end, but we'll definitely put a disclaimer for those of you that are still working towards the ending and all that. So let's just jump into it. Josh, since you're our guest today, what do you think? What's your impression, your initial thoughts of the game?
Oh boy. It's really good. It's really, really good. It's a lot better than now. I'll say this: there's obviously things that could have benefited it from being delayed again, but I would say that the product that we got, in relation to the stories that have come out, especially the Bloomberg article that came out regarding the development hell that Infinite went through, and other studios go through this type of shit too. Not saying that it's justified, it shouldn't be a thing, but regardless, I would say that the final product that we got was, for all intents and purposes, great. I thoroughly enjoyed my time through it, and honestly, part of me, it's weird because maybe I'm biased because it's this franchise, but there are a couple games I'd say a year that come out that really make me want to just dive right back in and go and just play it all over again, or jump back in and get a new experience, whatever it may be. And Infinite is one of those two games for me this year for sure.
I know what you mean, and there is that bias is kind of put in there, but after completing the game myself, like, it is one of those things where it's like, wow, there's more stuff that I can be doing, and I do want to just jump right back in. There is a uniqueness, I think, to Halo Infinite that not many of the other Halo mainline games, I think, have, where you, at least for me, like, it wants to pull me in and discover something new. Like in past games, like, it, I may really like one of the missions or something, and so the games will pull me back in, like, oh, you know what, I really want to play Silent Cartographer, or I really want to play the Covenant, or whatever mission that it might be. But, like, because of the design choices and how Infinite is this open world experience, like, there's this drive to want to know more. So I definitely know what you mean, but yeah, maybe there's a little bias in there, but I think that's just an achievement to the design team and how they structured Infinite, being such a departure from the other mainline Halo games.
Absolutely.
Dave, what about you? What are some of your sort of initial thoughts? I mean, I think you're the only one at this proverbial table who has yet to complete the campaign, but where you are in it, what do you think of it?
I am absolutely loving it. It's such a strange feeling, to play a Halo campaign and not know what's happening next. Like you just haven't had that feeling in such a long time. That it just feels weird. I'm totally loving it though. I was looking at it there because I hadn't actually checked my progress, or like I've always done either quick resume or just going to continue. So I've never seen my own progress bar or my time spent. So I was curious. Listen to you guys talk there, going, when was the last? How long have I actually been playing this game? I've been playing this goddamn game like for 15 hours, and I've done like almost no campaign missions, like very little. I spent so much time wandering around this world, pinging the fuck out of it. I can't remember what that ability is to scan. I am just scanning constantly. I will have that button worn out, I think. I'm just constantly looking for things. But I'm totally enjoying it. I love how it plays, how the campaign plays. It's super fun. It's weird. The open world is like, it's so simple. Like on paper, when you look at it, like it is such a simple, like the tasks, the things that you have to do, the way they organized it. It's like, it's not rocket science. There's other open world games that do it way better. But I'm just really enjoying this Halo skin slapped on top of this world. It's pretty damn fun to kind of go through, to be honest. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, they stick the landing with story. I'm liking it so much. I'm hounding myself trying to find audio logs and just get information from this game. Because I will say, as it starts, man, there's fucking no intro to this game. I was so shocked when like the game opens and it's everything we've more or less already seen, and then you're playing. And I was like, where the fuck is the rest of it? Like, what actually happened between 5 and now? Like, I mean, I was really expecting like more of a setup than what this game actually gives you.
And that, without saying much, because I think that'll be a hot topic over the next few weeks for our kind of more spoiler specific thing, but there's definitely some conversations there as to 343's approach of kind of when to enter the player into the story and why they chose this. particular moment where he's floating in space, and then kind of how information from the last 6 months is told to the player, and how even Chief kind of discovers some things that he didn't know about, and kind of that sort of method of storytelling and those choices, I think are going to be a very interesting conversation that I am looking forward to having in the coming weeks. I want to move on to the what's it called, the open world that you mentioned there, David, because I think the three of us all had very different experiences, as I'm sure everyone listening to this more or less had, to where, David, you are exploring every nook and cranny of this game and finding it all. Josh, I think you did something very similar. You also basically did 100% playthrough, your first playthrough.
Yeah, so I think this is literally what you said was perfect, that the three of us having completely different experiences, with Dave meticulously going over every single detail, myself just focusing on the criteria needed to hit 100% completion, so collecting everything in the game and then obviously doing the campaign missions. And then Oran, what did you do?
And so I pretty much stayed to what Joseph Staten and 343 have been calling the golden path. I was very much wanting to know the story. I didn't want to necessarily rush through the campaign, but I didn't feel the urge to, like I said, 100% it like you guys. I didn't want to go to every base and find this and do that. It was like, all right, the weapon or the pilot says I need to go over here, so I'm gonna go in that direction. And if there's like a forward operating base or some stranded Marines along the way, then I'll figure out, on myself, like, all right, in this moment, like, do I want to go and save those Marines, or do I feel that, whatever mission that Chief's supposed to be on is kind of more important right now for the greater of humanity? Then that's the way that I went. So I completed the game in less than 8 hours, and I think I'm sitting at 22%. I'm not sure how where that percentage really lies, because I think some other people in our evolved community have land around 40 or 50% when they finish the campaign, because they are looking for collectibles and stuff like that. I also, and I deliberately did this because I didn't want to start and not really finish, but I avoided the audio logs. I like saw them.
That's such a weird choice, Oran.
And the reason I did it is because, like, I didn't want to get the extra story while I was trying to understand the main story. Uh-oh.
You don't have to listen to them when you pick them up initially. You just have to, if you hold the button down to pick them up, it'll automatically start playing it, but if you tap the button, it'll just put it in your collectible inventory, and you're not actually listening to it.
Oh, jeez.
Just a heads up for next time. Next time.
I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna make and I made it like, within the first like 15 minutes of playing. I was like,
sure. No,
I'm not gonna listen to the audio logs. I was like, that'll be my replay, or when I'm going to get that 100% and all that kind of stuff. Like, I just want to know what is up with Chief. I want to and discover what I need to discover, and then once I have that as a background, then I can kind of learn more about, presumably what the Banish has been up to, what some of the Spartans that are on the ring were doing, in the 6 months prior to the
that's pretty much exactly what they are too. They're like
100%.
They're like they're grouped as well. There's like like there are different types of like audio logs. I don't know if you've even seen the menu, Oran, but like they're spread out by like.
I think there's Spartan, UNSC, and Banished. Unless there's
Spartan, UNSC, Banished, and there's also the Forerunner one.
Oh.
So there's like, there's like a. I didn't even know what I was looking for until I randomly stumbled across that this was a thing that could be collected. So it's called like a Forerunner archive, and I don't know. It's kind of maybe spoilery to say like, I don't know. It's like, are you planning to like look up a guide, or are you just going to kind of mince?
No, I'm probably going to go back and I'm probably going to open up the map and just look for them. I mean, I think these are all on your map, right?
Well, they are not on your map, which is frustrating because that's what's driving me crazy. They're the one collectible. They're not. You have to ping the world, or like, which is the one good thing about it is that like there's most of them are have audio pinging. So like when you're out in the world, you'll hear a beeping.
Yes.
And that's
there's like
that
a
will draw
beacon
you
that
in
hear.
towards.
Yeah.
So like I'm constantly
like
just
green
listening,
and red lights.
trying to hear it.
I noticed.
Yeah, exactly. And then the Forerunner one doesn't have a sound associated with it. But once you know what it is, they're like pretty obvious in the world to find.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
they're incredible.
They're really cool.
So that's how kind of the three of us experienced the campaign in terms of looking for these other collectibles. And audio logs and terminals and that kind of stuff has been present in other Halo games. But I'll throw this one to Josh. Like, how was searching the world for these audio logs and other collectibles and even doing the side missions, I guess, different than what we traditionally experience in the campaign of other Halo games, where you're already on your linear mission path and it's just a matter of deviating a little bit.
So I like to think of this title as like a faux open world, if you will, and then I don't mean that in a negative connotation either. What I mean by that is, Oran, you stayed on what they called the golden path, right? You just went mission to mission, and the fact of the matter is, you can do that. Like the game allows you to do that. You do not have to sideline and do something else in the meantime. You can beeline it to every single main story mission as they appear on your map. It is that simple to do. For me, what I really enjoyed out of this and what makes this game different from the rest of them is that, frankly, you have these things that other Halo titles just didn't. I like how almost, like Dave said, the Forerunner ones do not, but I do like how almost every other collectible in the game has a different sound associated with it when you get close to it, or when you're in like kind of the same area of it. So like the Banish audio logs make a different sound than the UNSC audio logs, which makes a different sound from the armor cores, which makes a different sound from the armor lockers, blah, blah, blah. So that just helps, like when you are just out there and you're not looking them up and you're trying to find them on your own, that helps to alleviate that, along with the scanning ability like David mentioned. Also, if you guys have not yet, when you find a skull for the first time, the sound that makes is just bizarre.
Yeah.
I have not found a skull. Is this like the kind of similar sound cue to kind of help you locate exactly where it is, or is this like after you've already collected? There's like
nope. It is as it's on the world. And great, this isn't spoiling anything, but there are some in missions as well. But like when you're finding one, before you collect it, it makes this ominous just
creepy.
Yeah, very creepy. That's the perfect word to use. It's a very creepy sound associated with it. And it's funny considering the background of skulls in general. Like it's kind of cool how they use that type of sound to like show them off, because it's like, oh yeah, it is like a mysterious, odd, creepy thing that you're collecting skulls, and this is a perfect representation of it. The side stuff, if I would say that overall it's fine. Honestly, I didn't think it added a whole lot to my experience. I think the campaign itself was the best part of that game. Because also I want to say, in terms of the open world aspect of it, now this isn't meant to be a spoiler conversation, so I'm going to stay away from everything spoiler sides. But one of the criticisms I have is that on the segments of the ring that you do explore in this game, it all feels too samey to me. There's no additional biomes. It's all the same foresty area that you're in. Yes, like you go underground and whatnot in missions and blah, blah, blah. Again, not spoiling anything. Like, this is expected. It's Forerunner technology. But a lot of this game feels the same, which for what they were trying to give off, I guess is fine. But for me, I would have been nice to have like a snowy area or just something else to kind of break up the monotony. But the last thing I want to say about the side content itself, like the keeps, the FOBs, whatever it may be, I guess the main drawing point to that is there may be a cool weapon in one of those locations there, but no matter what, there's going to be audio logs and maybe a couple other collectibles as well. So it just helps to flesh out that world a little bit further and really show off that no, the Banish fucking occupy this thing. They occupy all of it, and you're just a lone dude on this motherfucker trying to take it over again. So yeah, that's.
And I will say that, like, even driving around and, like, doing this golden path, like, I passed some things here and there, but, like, I was able to call in, like, a mongoose or even a warthog later on, and just, like, traversing the map. Like, I actually forgot that, like, or even tried to fast travel until, like, I don't know, the last 2 hours of the campaign. So I was literally just, like, driving from, like, one end to the next, and, like, as you kind of move through the campaign, like, so the objectives are kind of lumped together, but there's like one mission to where like you straight up have to basically go halfway across the entire world, and I like did that, and then I realized I was like, oh wait, this is an open world game, I might be able to fast travel, and like sure enough, like the one forward operating base that I like captured in whatever area it was, I was able to travel to, and I kind of cut my time a little bit, but like even just traversing the world, just I mean, I do get the criticism of like I could have used a little bit more biomes and stuff, and I even made a note of that when I was playing. There was like this weird like swampy looking place. It was very, very small, but I was like, oh wow, that's kind of different. But yeah, traversing and like seeing the banished occupation just like gives I don't know, it gave this whole scale that I haven't quite ever gotten in another Halo game, and I got it a little bit in I guess ODST when you're traversing New Mombasa, but yeah, just like what they did, what 343 did to kind of create this world, I think just I don't know, I thought it was great. I thought it was very well done and very detailed, and I guess yeah, this section of the ring I guess could have used a little bit more diversity, but I mean I think they're able to achieve some of it with like the rocky terrain.
We're all hoping for DLC, right?
Well,
right,
yes,
so,
I didn't want to make that cop out, but like that is kind of like something as well. That if this is
and that's a great point. That's a great point that you make, Dave, in terms that like we're all hoping for DLC, and Oran, you make a great point that this section of the ring that we're on has this specific biome. So here's hoping that if we have additional DLC, whether that be campaign, like separate stories, whatever it may be, that they are on different biomes of the ring. And again, this isn't meant to spoil anything. But yeah, just here's hoping.
Yeah. That's disappointing about the biomes. I was kind of hoping a section of the ring would open up and it would be different. There would be something a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, even like the rings just do that. Like, argue. I don't want to. So the mission, fan favorite Halo 3 mission, the Covenant.
The best mission, the best Halo mission. And thank you to the Podcast Evolve crew for fucking realizing that.
It's a pretty dope mission.
It's the best mission.
You literally a door opens up and there's snow on the other side of that
yes!
door. So like the rings do, there is precedent for that type of a thing. So
it's in one fucking mission. Like, come on.
So, but yeah, all right. Let's talk about the sandbox. I see some notes in here about weapons. I think there's definitely a conversation on the sandbox from a multiplayer side, and then there's a separate conversation with the campaign side of things. And both sandboxes are the same pretty much. All the weapons that you have in campaign are the same weapons that you have in multiplayer, and I feel like that may answer some of the questions.
Do you think they're balanced a bit differently? Because like I've picked up weapons, like I've only played a little bit of multiplayer, but like from what I remember, like some of the weapons in the campaign seem like way more beefy. Like I feel like the Ravager is crazy good. I feel like just some random weapons in that I'm picking up, and like I might use a little bit in the multiplayer. I'm like I never feel like I do anything, and then like I'm using them now. Obviously, it's against Covenant. Like Obviously, who you're fighting
there's
is
definitely extra tuning, and I don't know if Josh may have insider knowledge, so to speak, but like the Ravager, I feel like definitely is beefier in the campaign. The Sentinel Beam is way beefy
my god,
in the campaign, like almost OP levels. Like I was using like a BR, or rather like a UNSC weapon and a Sentinel Beam for like the second half of the campaign. Like it's just so powerful against brutes and stuff. But yeah, I think there's definitely some tuning kind of in there as it kind of changes. But what are some, I don't know, or anything that highlights that comes to mind in terms of the sandbox, and we could even talk about the Spartan abilities or the armor abilities if we wanted to as well.
I'll just want to say that you guys are right. It's basically a known thing that you don't pick up the Ravager in multiplayer unless you have the challenge for it. And even if you have a challenge for it, just swap that shit out.
Oh yeah, I swap it. Also the Pulse Carbine. Like the Pulse Carbine, I won't use in multiplayer, but it's
really good.
Campaign.
Yeah, it's very good in campaign. And on the multiplayer side of things, the Pulse Carbine is a weapon that is definitely good in certain situations, especially at medium to longer ranges, because
does it track as well?
Track, yes, it does.
Yeah, it does.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
It's not incredible by any means necessary. It's not like an aimbot or anything like that, but it definitely can be advantageous in certain situations. But no, Oran, along the same lines as you, I use actually a Mangler and a Sentinel Beam basically as soon as the Mangler from the beginning of the game, and then because that thing just pops heads off like nothing
it's else.
Dope.
Yeah, I used the Mangler a lot in the beginning of the campaign because it felt better like than multiplayer. I guess it's just because the enemies shooting at you aren't as deadly as multiplayer is. Sure. But yeah, to that point.
But yeah, and also the fact that brutes basically have that weapon all the time. You're able to have ammo for it all the time.
Well, that's a cool thing I want to say. The ammo boxes in the campaign, I'm a big fan of these bad boys. They finally figured out like how to reload Covenant weapons. That's brilliant. Like that we just have generic weapon boxes now, and it's like, okay, you want a plasma, the electric, the kinetic. I love that. I love that.
100%.
I think it's well done.
Yeah, that was a great sort of solution for open ammo scarcity.
Yeah.
Or open world ammo scarcity.
Well, that's another thing I'll say straight off the bat. There are so many guns and weapons in this open world everywhere. And I'm in love with that. I'm in love with the fact, like, you are never short for a weapon or ammo or, like, because they've even invented a new grunt that comes and brings you guns. I'm loving this grunt.
Yeah, like a treasured goblin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
That's exactly what it is. Just crack him open, and like he'll drop a sniper rifle sometimes or some shit. I'm like, dude, this is incredible. In the middle of a fight, I love it. Josh, go on.
An additional. Oh, I was just gonna say a couple things. One, the Sentinel Beam just shreds. That thing is unfucking believable at how good it is. And then, there, on the map, there are high value targets that you can go and kill, and there is a high value target who has an upgraded Sentinel Beam that, just think of the Sentinel Beam, and if you could upgrade it, crazy as that sounds,
Jeez,
it's just even better than nuts. That. It is nuts. And then also, funny thing that Will and I noticed that we really didn't talk about a whole lot, but the repulsor is not in the campaign.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think I just got my last upgrade and I didn't notice it. I was expecting it to be there, to be the last one.
Yep, so I don't know, we weren't able to find it as like a pickup or anything like that either, because it is a piece of equipment, and so yeah, there's literally nothing for the repulsor. And then also, there's no overshield and active camo either. Now granted, there is an upgrade path with one of the pieces of equipment that does give you a small active camo, but there's no pickups on the map for camo and overshield. Yeah, just couple,
and
couple fun facts
so when
there.
you're the I think the first sort of upgrade you get very early in the campaign is your quote unquote like overshield, like shielding upgrade tree.
Oh yeah,
that you can do.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like overshield at first, and I was like, oh, so I can extend like the strength of an overshield if I like activate that ability, but then I couldn't figure out like how to do it. And then
It's just a
eventually I was
passive,
just like,
yeah.
I was like, oh, maybe that's just my generic base shield strength. I was like,
Yes.
oh, well, I
Yeah.
guess I should level that one up first. So then I pretty much just leveled that up, and since I didn't go looking for other armor cores, I didn't level up really anything else.
Absolutely. And then I want to, if you don't mind, I want to pass this over to David because he has a point in his notes that I absolutely 100% agree with in terms of the selection of equipment.
Oh, if there's one thing that I think 343 made a balls of, it's the control configuration around grenades and abilities. I don't like it at all. I'm constantly struggling with them, and I don't like the UI. I don't really like the layout. I mean, the actual abilities themselves are cool, but like they're also situational, and sometimes you need the right grenade. Like some of those. I mean, we haven't touched on like some of the boss fights are fucking tough. I'm on normal and get my ass handed to me a lot of the times, and I'm like, I need a specific grenade, or if I had this specific ability on hand, it would just, that's what they're there for. And like, I'm always fumbling with the D-pad and trying to figure out, okay, I need this grenade head, but get to it really fast. I just can't do it. And like, I'm 15 hours into this game, and I just haven't clicked with me, like, how to get to the grenade I need when I need it. I have to plan in advance what I'm going to throw, and okay, this enemy's here, maybe I should shock him and stun him, and then I flip to a stickier and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of how they did that.
For reference for folks who have yet to play Infinite's campaign, I just want to put this out there. And also maybe if you have not played the multiplayer either, now it is an additional button press on a controller in order to switch your grenade type and now also equipment. So before in like a Halo 3, for example, when you're playing the campaign, you'd have 3 or 4 different types of grenades, right? You'd have frag, plasma, incendiary, and spike. And you would only have to press one button to cycle through them, and you'd see them on your HUD. Well, in Infinite, your grenade indicator is at the bottom right of your screen, and there's a little white bar underneath showing you how many different types of grenades that you have. So it could be 1, 2, 3, or 4. And the problem now is, instead of only being one button to press on your controller to cycle through your grenade types, you have to press it again, and this time in a different direction. So you would hit the button to open up the contextual menu to select the grenade type that you want, and then you'd hit the directional pad in the direction of the grenade type that you want to actually select it.
And if you don't do it fast enough, you end up doing something else entirely because the menu disappears. So
yes, 100%.
I've done that so many times. Like, I'm squinting at my screen trying to see, is that an up or a down? And then it goes away.
Process, like, all right, what is the grenade that I need? All right, there it is. What direction is it? Where is my thumb? Like, yeah, there's not only is it additional button press, but it's also just like so many more seconds of thinking to make sure that that's like the choice that you want to make while you're in the middle of a firefight.
Exactly. And it just seems like such a weird problem to have when this had never been a problem before, and really didn't even need to become a problem considering this was like quote unquote fixed in previous titles. So
you could just cycle
really
through, like, yeah, I think you could go back to the cycling. I think that would be totally fine.
Yeah, I think
and just have all 4. Go ahead, Oran, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, probably you're gonna say, just make the left thumb or left D-pad cycle through your grenades in an order, and then the right D-pad would be cycling through your equipment in like a set order. So then, because like there's been a few times where I was like, oh, it'd be cool to just pop out a pulse sensor to kind of see where the enemies are, but I don't know all the button presses, so then I'll just grapple around the corner and then just shoot everything until everyone's dead. And I'm just like, okay, so like my playthrough was probably 95% grapple shot, and I feel like I could have had a little bit more versatility in my equipment and maybe had some like pretty engaging counters. But like, I mean, I didn't even use the threat detector on the boss fight that you get it for, like with the invisible guy. Because like I just chucked a bunch of grenades, and then I chucked some shot grenades. Actually, I don't know. I'll stop talking, but it's a little spoiler. But basically, there's a boss fight where it encourages to use the threat detector, but I was able to use other equipment to kind of circumvent that, and then I was still able to defeat the boss. And then after the whole fight, I was like, oh, if I knew all these different button presses, then I could have use that as part of my arsenal. And if you're trying to live this fantasy of Master Chief, he could do literally anything. Like, he doesn't need a second to know which equipment to use or which grenade to throw. He just knows. So, like, to kind of put yourself in that fantasy, there should be some easier steps and kind of less thinking to where it can become a little bit more reactionary. Unless you just straight up memorize whatever buttons the things are. So then if you want spikes, you just know that it's left then up and then you throw. So or whatever it is. So it's definitely room for improvement there.
I will say on
Dave,
that.
What were you gonna say?
Yeah, just to say on that point you mentioned that, Ali. I will say it's hilarious like how they've, I say quote unquote, like fixed camo. Like that after camo is no joke. Those dudes are fucking invisible, and like I missed them like so many times. I think that's really cool. They've finally managed how to like, okay, we can shield the swords now, so you don't have a big blue sword running around the place with an invisible dude holding it. But it's pretty cool. Those guys have surprised me a number of times. But I was like, I did not know there was a fucking invisible dude here. So I think that's pretty cool. They made them a threat.
Even just like regular elites, like I think like anything higher than like a blue or something, sometimes if you get their shields down, they'll just pop invis and pull out a sword, and you're like, oh well, shit, like now I need to figure out where they are or kill them really quickly. And so like those types of moments are great.
I agree.
All right, did you want to touch on anything, Josh, or should we pivot the conversation?
The last thing I want to add is that basically my playthrough went the exact same way. There are achievements to use your different pieces of equipment 50 times a piece. So as soon as I would get one, I would just spam it 50 times, and then I'd go right back to using the grapple.
Yeah,
it's just,
achievement hunting, baby. That's what you do.
Seriously, every time. Well, the fact that you can't replay missions just kills a lot of that for me. That's why I did a lot in my first playthrough.
They're definitely going to fix that, right? That feels so wrong.
Yep.
Yeah, like did they say why? Was it just not ready? Because I feel like that's a super easy thing to put in there. You just equip it from the menu. Like literally every other game does it. Is it not that easy?
It's not that easy. So not to be like an armchair developer or anything like that. But it says, let me see here.
It's probably something, the fact that it's open world and instance, it's probably like you have to reset a set area, but like without resetting the whole ring, the game you're playing. I'm guessing that's probably part of it.
So this is from Jay Peters of The Verge. It says, that might not always be the case, though, as developer 343 Industries wants to add the feature down the line. The studio told The Verge, quote, we haven't announced a date yet, but it is being worked on. 343 Industries Associate Creative Director Paul Crocker said in an interview, quote, we want to have replay that works well, and when you have a more open game, it gets a lot trickier. So we made a decision to improve the quality of the single-player campaign to ensure that, as a foundation, that it's as strong as it possibly could be, so that we could then add the other features back in. So yeah, it's hard to do right now, but they are working on it.
I'll definitely take their word for it. But I think there was a moment where I was, or like I think it was just like a checkpoint. Like I think I just died and respawned, but because the checkpoint system like sometimes happens, maybe too often, if you know what I mean. And I was just like, I don't know. I had a thought of just like, oh well, I wonder like why I can't just like replay the mission. Like if I can just go back to, I forget which checkpoint it was, and it might even be spoiler even if I did remember. But
there is an option to restart the mission though. It's not a restart level. There is a prompt there, I think. Yeah,
but
I've never done it.
So are they saying that like say you're doing a mission where you have to travel from A to B, and there's like a keep between A to B, and you were to replay that mission, are there like more under the hoods like things inside that they need to like sort out like programming wise to make it to where like if you've already secured that keep, then when you replay the mission that keeps them secured? Or could there be an issue to where like because of this campaign mission that keep has to be in banished control? Is it like it's like examples like that might be problematic that they have to sort through, or do we just not really know?
There hasn't been anything said in that capacity. I would imagine that because when you when you start a new campaign over, the only thing that transfers over are some collectibles, which makes me believe that, yeah, there's probably a lot with that open aspect of the world that causes problems. The last quote I wanted to say from this article was, they say, the goal was, quote, from day one, end quote, to make the game playable in co-op and allow people to replay missions. But, quote, we just had to prioritize what we could get done in time, end quote, Crocker said.
But fair enough, because you imagine once co-op comes in, that's what people will want to do. They'll want to go back and replay their favorite missions, as opposed to like starting a new game from scratch, which people will probably do and be like, "This is my co-op game."
Yeah.
But
well, I even have like playing through the game. Like I could see how co-op can be challenging. Like just once you play and get a few missions into there, and you start changing the landscape, so to speak, figuratively speaking, of like your mission criteria and stuff. I can see how doing a co-op campaign can be problematic, but also, maybe not as exciting for the second player whose save file it isn't. So like there's some sacrifices there, and I can see where those issues kind of would come up from. But yeah, I guess I'm not going to sit here and tell them to just fix it, because I don't develop the game, but it is interesting to kind of learn more about like what are some of the more technical difficulties, because like co-op campaigns are the same sort of thing. Like I literally have a coworker who is like, dude, all of my buddies have always played like campaign when the new Halo came out, and like we're all like so upset that like can't co-op campaign. And like for me, like I don't know, 9 times out of 10, the game that I'm playing, like I pretty much play by myself, and then I'll play co-op campaign with friends. But yeah, there's people out there that definitely miss those experiences. So it definitely is, disappointment that it's not there right now. But we'll see where it comes from.
touching on that point, Oran, before you get too
Yes.
far on co-opness, I will say I'm having an absolute blast with my Marine buddies. I know you ignored many of them because you're a terrible Spartan.
Oh yes,
But
I did. I did ignore a lot of them, and
there's
it
a
was
lot of
funny
distress
'cause, like,
calls there, buddy.
I even got a distress call. I saved the Marines, and then there was a forward operating base right next to them. I went and secured the forward operating base, and then I called in a mongoose, and I'm like, all right, great. I got my Marines. I got my mongoose. I'm gonna go to the next mission. And like, I guess I took a wrong turn, and there was like literally a cliff between me and the mission. So you know what I did? Instead of going all the way around, I hopped out of the Warthog and grapple shotted over the cliff to then start the mission without them.
That's okay. I've definitely done that too. Where I'm traversing, and I'm like, I need to get up this cliff, and I got a bunch of dudes with me. See you later, guys. I gotta go. I got my grapple shot, but like, I'm having so much fun. I think their audio is brilliant. I love their interactions. They tell each other to shut up when people are talking too much. I thought that was hilarious. They're pretty well done. Like, giving them power weapons is so much fun. Like, they just love it. They're just like, oh my god, Chief, thank you. Like, they're just like all their Christmases came at once because you took their sidekick and gave them like a rocket launcher. I've had some great moments. I actually can't believe how much fun I have. Like, my main vehicle is the Razorback, just so that I can cram it full of Marines and bring them places. I'm having so much fun just doing that. Like, I didn't think I would have. Like, why would you put like one of the vehicles being one that has no armament on it? Like, screw this. But like, man, when you get Marines and you start dropping, you give them a Ravager, you're giving them a rocket launcher, they can start spawning in with snipers, and like, I've seen guys do work with the fucking shotgun, which is ridiculous. But again, I'm playing on normal, so that's probably part of it too. But like, rocking up with like 5 Marines in a car and they all have heavy weapons is mental. Like, that's just so much fun, and I'm absolutely loving that. I will say they've done that bit pretty clever. But I've also noticed, like, they don't drive cars, which I think is weird. That they removed that part of their AI. I've never seen any of them interact with vehicles other than jump into a gun because I'm driving. So that's a little bit disappointing. I thought it would be cool to get because like a lot of I think there must be a max, and maybe 5 of Marines that will follow you. I haven't tried to like mix bunches of Marines yet. But like, could you imagine like two Razorbacks full of Marines? Like, that's just so awesome in my brain. Like, that's just so much fun.
Well,
like,
hey, maybe not 2 Razorbacks with 10 Marines or 11 Marines, but like say you have co-op and you and me are playing and we both have Razorbacks and we load up each of our Razorbacks with 5 Marines.
Now you're talking, Oran.
Maybe
now,
that's
now we're getting
they,
somewhere, buddy.
They add down the
Yes.
line. Dave, I was just gonna kind of piggyback off what you were saying. Like, are there any like crazy moments that you've had, or like what I'm kind of calling Master Chief moments in your exploration? Because I have a pretty funny one that I'll say that I talked about before the show, but I think if we go around and just like talk about, I don't know, something crazy that we did in Infinite, while we were just in the open world. Like, do you have anything that comes to mind, or we can go to Josh if you need a moment to think on something.
Crazy. I've seen talking about the Marines, like they make jumps now. They try and jump to follow you. Like, I've seen them like jump off the cliff into space a few times, just totally missed their landing, totally whiffing. I'm like, I just gave you a rocket launcher and then you just jumped off the edge. And that's happened a few times. Their dialogues are pretty funny. Like, when you're driving and you're making any kind of jump, they scream and they shout and everything. Like, they're loving it at the time of their lives. With Chief, so that's been pretty fun. I don't know, nothing particularly crazy. Like, some of the traversal stuff, like the grapple shot changes so much, and like how you get around.
It does.
You do things.
I was gonna bring that up after this, of just like how great it really does change what you think of like Halo was. But then now that it's here, like it's not that it's just like, where has it been this whole time, but just like it was added. And it just feels so natural in this game. Like,
100%. And like
everything just works so well. And like when you're fighting different bosses or you're doing encounters, and like the level design, like they really thought about the grapple being, definitely a primary ability as opposed to like just something else. Because like there's been plenty of times where I would be like so in over my head shooting at everybody, and then my shields are all of a sudden down and I have to now grapple out of the way and do this crazy spin maneuver so I can then hide behind cover. And like when I pull it off, it feels amazing, and then when like I don't pull it off, I'm just like, darn, I die, and then I have to dive back in and try it again.
I mean, yeah, nothing beats the feeling of like you're out of ammo and you grapple a weapon and now you're ready to rock again. Like, that's that's a great moment. And the fusion coils are hilarious. I do like them. They're literally everywhere. They're the red barrels of Halo.
Literally everywhere.
But
they might have copy and pasted those too many times.
Maybe. But they're pretty fun, and like you can load fusion coils onto the back of Razorbacks, and like pretty much create. Like, the game has potential here for like not as much, but a little bit of like the kind of Far Cry mechanics that people like mess with the Far Cry open world, and you see them like taking on bases and stuff like that, and like the different ways you can do it. I'm loving that. I'm loving coming to a base and being like, I'm just gonna sniper. I'm gonna spend time reconning this big base and see where I'm gonna attack from. And like, there's always caves, there's always tunnels and different things around it. Like, it's well done for what it is. So yeah, that was probably one Halo moment. I was getting ready. I got this Razorback. I was going to suicide it. I'm like, okay, I'll load it up with fusion coils. And my plan was literally to drive it at something, jump out and see if I could shoot it and set it off. And like, I literally got in it, had loaded it with full of dudes. I got sniped, and they sniped the fusion coil and blew everybody up. And I was like, well, that worked, I suppose. That was fun.
I have had a few moments where I've just tried to throw a fusion coil at an enemy and they'll shoot it. I can't tell if they're doing it intentionally or if they're just missing me but still hitting the fusion coil. And then I blow up and have to restart. So those are always kind of funny moments. Josh, do you have a Master Chief moment from the open world?
Oh boy, a Master Chief moment. I'm not entirely certain, but I will say that there is an upgrade with the grapple shot that makes it so you can just fucking charge, like,
oh, it's beautiful,
blast
it's so
at
good.
Somebody.
Yeah.
It's so goddamn good. And if anything makes you feel like a Spartan, it's got to be that.
It's essentially like ground pound, Oran, but like with an electric shock blast wave that comes out at the end. It's really
way
cool.
better than a fucking ground pound. It's so cool. Also, I just say anything that has to do with the grapple feels like a better Master Chief moment, where you can grapple a Banshee that's flying in the air and occupy it. You can grapple any enemy vehicle. You can grapple to one of your vehicles and get right back inside of it. You can scale walls. You can loop around corners. It's just such a really cool piece of equipment to the Halo sandbox that really adds. It doesn't detract, it doesn't take away from anything else. It just adds to you being a fucking badass in the game. And that, from a campaign and multiplayer perspective. The one thing I wanted to point out, though, is that so Dave said that he's like meticulously going through the world. Oran, you said you didn't do any of that shit. I wanted to point out one specific instance, and again, this isn't spoiling anything. It's at the very, very beginning of the game when you get access to the ring, and there's like this hidden rule, or not hidden, like this unwritten rule in open world games or exploration games where wherever you start, just turn around and go the other way.
Always go back. Always go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
that's a video game thing. I wouldn't even say that to open world. Like, if you start a mission or a level in a game, turn around and go back. Just see what's there.
There you go. There you go. And that's exactly what I did as soon as we got access to the ring. And the really cool part is that when you're at the base, again, for those who haven't played the campaign, I'm not going to give names out or anything like that. But when you get out of the base and you're on the Halo for the first time, if you turn around, you go back, like on the ring itself, not back in the base or whatever. But if you go around the back of the base, there's this cave, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's just a fucking cave. That's neat. And I see this heat wave back there. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah, heat wave. That sounds awesome. And then 2 sword elites came out, and they're like, hey, we're here to fuck your day up. And I'm
yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
And so I got destroyed. And I'm like, all right, let's try that again. So I go back to that cave. There's rockets near the cave entrance, so I pick up the rockets. And I go to town, I destroy the elites, and I pick up that heat wave. And I notice to myself that, wait a second, this doesn't look like the traditional heat wave that you get in multiplayer. This has like a different coating on it. That's kind of weird. Come to find out that was one of the new variants of the weapon that one of the high value targets actually has, and you can find them early. So I literally found that heat wave kind of towards the very beginning of the game, and it wasn't until I killed that high value target way later in the game that I'm like, oh my god, that's really, really cool that you have these little outstretches of things on the world that just add to the overall experience of it being lived in, and just really cool little things taking place all around it. And not necessarily a Master Chief moment, but just a really cool part of that world that I really enjoyed.
The addition of the variants is so cool. I love that they're in the campaign. They did that in 5 too, but I love that they brought them in.
Yeah, and they did it so much better in this game than they did in 5. Like in 5, you had it just in a specific location in the missions that you'd have to go out of your way to go and find. And in this one, it's like, no, there are these high value targets with a story behind them, and they are part of the banished forces, and you want to take them out. And when you do, you get a special prize because of it. You can take it with you. And the really cool part is, unlike 5, in Infinite, when you kill that high-value target, that variant of the weapon is at all of your FOBs that you can respawn as many times as you want.
Love this.
It's such a really cool, just like, if you don't have to worry about losing it anymore. It's always there and it's always available for you. And I just thought that was, again, just a really cool part that they added to the overall game.
That's awesome. Yeah, I need to go do some high-value targets now.
Yeah, you can get that Sentinel beam.
Yeah, I can go get the
crazy.
Sentinel beam. I'll have to go hunting. So my story I have, so like, because I did pretty much the golden path, I have 2 that I think are just a little bit more comical, because I like how, again, you could just do these things, because it's all about player choice and all that. But like the way David is playing is different from the way Josh is playing versus the way that I'm playing. So like there was this level. It was later in the campaign, so I won't give context. But I basically had to get from point A to point B, and the distance was like really far. And this was before I remembered that it was an open world game to where you could fast travel. And so I was just trudging along and using my grapple and all that, and I was on like a cliffside, and so then I like jumped down from the cliff and then like grappled something to like break my fall. I don't know if there's fall damage in this game, probably not, but
there is not.
But I was like, oh, I'll just grapple something so then I, don't die, and I landed like right in the middle of a keep, of a banished keep. And like when you discover new keeps, the weapon gives you like, oh, this is such and such keep, like it's doing this, and it's giving you all these ominous bad things that are like, we should go take it out. And even Chief has some dialogue of saying like, yeah, let's get rid of them. And so I'm like killing everything because I'm like right in the middle of the base, and I don't want to die and like restart my checkpoint or whatever. So then I like kill that area, and then I get around and I'm like in the building, I'm restocking ammo, and then the weapon like says, oh, I need to give you all the markers to deactivate and blow up the base. And so like all my HUD just fills up with like 6 different objectives that I now have to do. And like I literally just stood there and I was like, I don't really want to do this. I want to continue the mission that I was doing. So then I just left. I literally just grappled over the wall and then just continued on my way and just ignored.
Like I said, bad Spartan.
Just but it's great that was still a choice that like we could do. Like I didn't feel like I needed to do it. Like I did see the benefits and stuff like that, and it wasn't like I wasn't having fun. I was having fun killing everything, and like the base was like really cool, and there's story and all that stuff there that I will be able to dive into. But the drive of me wanting to continue this campaign mission just like is really what was pulling me in that moment. So anyway, I think that's a pretty comical story, because you just don't get that in some games.
Oh, also, I just want to, one, I said it to you before we started recording this, but fuck you for just walking away from that situation, not doing anything about it. But the other thing I want to say is, and again, this isn't meant to be spoilery, but a couple really, actually, I'll just say one. There was one really cool callback in one of the missions, and all I'm going to say is, wee! And when you get there, you'll understand what the hell I'm talking about.
I think I know what moment that is, and if it is, then I definitely had a smile on my face as well.
Yeah,
I also had a smile on my face. Kind of funny, but like the first time you get like ambushed by grunts, and like before you know anything about it, a grunt breaks the stealth by saying, "It's not a surprise attack." I just started laughing.
Oh, dude, the dialogue that they have is so good, too.
Yeah, the dialogue's great, and I think someone in the chat was even like, I can't, like, if the dialogue is this good, like, I wonder what the IMDb, I would have been your daddy's skull. Is that skull in the game, Josh?
Yeah, it's literally the only one I've found.
Oh, okay. And is it still unlock more dialogue and stuff?
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to do, but it also says that, like, all skulls deactivate achievements, and so I have.
They don't.
They don't?
They don't. Nope.
Oh, interesting. That's literally what it says when you pick it up.
There's literally a lasso achievement, and also I completed, so just for context here, because I want to make sure this is understood, my first playthrough took about 18 hours, and that was 100% playthrough on normal. Then there's a skull in the game, and again, not spoiling anything, skulls exist. It's the Bandana Skull, which gives you infinite ammo.
Okay, cool.
And infinite equipment usage without a cooldown.
Oh my god, I love it.
And let's just say that so there's an achievement for, like Oran said earlier, there's an achievement in the game for completing all missions but in 8 hours or less. And I just beelined it on easy, and I had the Bandana Skull on, the Grunt Birthday Party Skull, and the I Would Have Been Your Daddy Skull on. And not only did that achievement unlock, but I also had a couple more that I was missing because they were just bugged from playing the campaign the first time on launch. But no, everything unlocked just fine. So no,
Okay.
skulls do not block achievements from you.
I don't know. Okay, cool. I love it.
All right, so I think we're winding down towards the end of our initial reactions. I'm just kind of looking and seeing maybe what type of closing remarks we have. Something that I'll say that I was thinking about is I completed the campaign maybe about 4 hours prior to recording this, and like there's definitely a departure from like the other Halo games, but this still feels like more Halo than some of like even Halo 5 in my opinion. And you know the obvious first thing that people ask about or the kind of get compared to in sort of modern video games is like, all right, well, how does it compare to the other games? And there's all this internet talk of the Bungie era versus the 343 era, and all these in-depth conversations that really lead nowhere. But in my opinion, how I think about like where Halo Infinite fits like in the other Halos and all the other games and like even the side games and stuff is that this game truly does feel like the next chapter that 343 is having, like the next saga that whatever 343 has planned. And that's not to say that like the story is so open-ended that like there's so many things that it can do, but like Infinite's supposed to be this big 10-year plan that we keep hearing. And when I think about the other Halo games and then I think of Infinite, like I think of Infinite as being the beginning of something new, whereas you basically have like Bungie era, 343 era, and then you have Halo Infinite era, even though that's still 343. But like that's kind of how I am able to really like take the evolution of all of the games. I don't know if you guys have had similar thoughts playing through the game, but like just for me, retroflective on what this game is and how much fun I've been having, how it feels, the fact that it has Chief in it and all these other elements that like it's so different, but it also just feels like it should be right next to these other games. And I think that's kind of my biggest takeaway from playing the game. And it kind of goes back to Josh, like you were saying, that it really wants me to just dive back in and just kind of keep learning, doing all these extra stuff that I've missed, because there's just so much more content and more fun to be had within it.
To me, this feels like the perfect merging of classic and modern Halo. And I truly, truly mean that.
That's such a good feeling. It feels, it's such a unique game, and like it is like just a simple open world with a Halo skin on it, but like it just works so well, and I'm really excited by that. I'm really excited that that's what people are coming away from it. Like, you guys have finished the game, and you seem pretty good on it. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm excited to see what they've done to kind of leave themselves open for what comes next. Without any kind of spoilery stuff, I think there's potential for like flashback DLC or something like that. I mean, that's all cool, but that's all discussions for a different type of podcast, I think. But I'm loving the structure of this game and what they've done with it.
I mean, even if Halo Infinite, like they said, is the next 10 years, like I feel like 343 can still, since they built a new engine for this game, like if they wanted to, they could just build a campaign like within the what's it called, like just using game assets, like the Spartan 7 or the Mjolnir 7 armor and like all this kind of stuff. They could just use those assets and then like make a campaign that doesn't really relate to the Infinite campaign. Like it could be just its own isolated thing that maybe takes place on a different part of the ring, or I think it'd be weird if it didn't take place on the ring, just because of how it is, but like, you know, maybe we go to the Ark again and play something over there. But like, I feel like there's ways to do that, even though the stories don't hyper connect. You know, one doesn't lead after another, so to speak, if that's the direction that they wanted to do. I feel like it's open enough from a technological point of view that 343 can go wherever they want in the universe and time. You know, but then yes, there obviously is like, all right, well, cool, well, what's next after the last mission? Like, you know, because the Halo universe is going to go on until infinity.
Oh,
Wow.
So
Just had to put that in there.
yeah, I was kind of rambling a little bit, but yeah, I guess, do you guys have any other final remarks? I mean, it sounds like we all recommend this, and if you're listening to this, you know, I hope you're a Halo fan, and if you're new to the franchise, then welcome. This is, you know, you might be a little lost in the beginning of it all, but by the end of the campaign, I think you would kind of understand the state of the universe and ready for more. And this is a fantastic game, and I think it really, you know, I don't know how much the extra year gave from like a gameplay point of view as opposed to just like general polish, but just like it was pure enjoyment the whole way through on my part, and it sounds like on a lot of other people's parts as well.
If there's one thing I want to end my my talk on in terms of Halo Infinite, is that have you guys ever watched the show Home Improvement?
I know of it. Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
Not as much as maybe I need to, but hopefully enough to understand the reference.
Okay, so Home Improvement was an older television sitcom, and it featured Tim Allen as the character Tim the Toolman Taylor. And he makes these really funny noises throughout the show. And let's just say that when brutes go in their berserk mode and you have more than one charging at you, and they all are just grunting and growling and shit, it literally sounds like Tim the Toolman Taylor is right there next to you, just doing his grunts and shit. So for those listening to this segment and have gotten this far, I want to say thank you. And also, look up Tim the Toolman Taylor on YouTube and his grunting noises. And trust me, you'll get it.
I wouldn't be surprised. They put a lot of work into the audio in this game, so like, who knows? That could absolutely be a deliberate thing that they did.
I really hope so, because it's uncanny how similar it sounds, and I'm like, oh my god, this is one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
That's awesome. I will definitely take a listen and compare. Alright guys, well I think that'll do it for us. We're setting in around about an hour. Like I said at the top of the show, this is, you know, kind of part 3 of a multi-impressioned series that we're doing. You know, there's a bunch of us here at Podcast Evolved. We also have we have Will from the HCS Pro Talk duo that's featured on the Blue Team episode. So if this is your first episode you've listened to our impressions and you want more, we have our Red Team episode with Krista, Tom, and Matt. And then we have our Blue Team episode, Colin, Will, and Aaron. And so these 3 episodes are just kind of the 9 of us talking about the game. It seemed better to make it a little bit more intimate as opposed to doing one massive show with everyone, because everyone then just talks less and then it's not as engaging and it's harder to edit. So we feel that this is the best way we can do it. And this is the first 3 episodes of our series that we're now starting called Infinite Impressions. And so I don't know if the other shows will kind of touch on this, but the future of this series will be talking about different aspects of the game. So the kind of logical next one will be talking about the story. So we'll talk about the different story beats from some of the missions, how the campaign ends, and how it begins, because that's another conversation, just how it starts off. And then from there, in the new year, we will talk about, what we think about the art design, or what we think of the audio logs, or we do a whole episode on just the high value targets or the side missions that you can do in Infinite. And so that every episode that we have kind of cuts into a different slice of Infinite, because you can do so much in this game. And I think that's something that we just don't really have gotten with past Halo games. It's kind of just the general game, the story, some collectibles here and there, and then we kind of just reference it when we talk about other mediums. But there's so much to talk about, and it's been 6 years since the last Halo game, so mainline Halo game, that we feel like this is the best way to kind of cover Infinite in the near future. And right now we have a few episodes planned that'll take us pretty much till February, March. And then, if they announce DLC or, the next multiplayer season, we can, this allows us the flexibility to talk about all things Halo Infinite, while then also discussing some of the other series that we do and our news episodes, and kind of continuing our regular Podcast Evolved broadcasting, if you will. And the cherry on top of all of that is that Will and Josh will be more involved in the future, which we're really excited about. And I'll just kind of
so if you don't like us, sucks to suck, loser.
Yeah, exactly. You go find another podcast to listen to, But I don't know why you would do that, because we're pretty cool.
Yeah, we're pretty cool. I'm glad that you guys are getting more involved, because then I need other people that can explain to me what the fuck a battle pass is and how this fucking thing works.
Oh my gosh, Josh.
And how terrible it is.
David is so. I tried to explain it to him, and I was like, no, it's it's just this. Just listen to my 44 steps to understanding the Halo Infinite Battle Pass, and it's. David, just don't even learn it, and then when they fix it in a couple months, learn that one.
Perfect.
Yeah, there you go. Or the fact that you can't equip something immediately upon unlocking it. You have to go into the armory to do it first. Fucking stupid.
So
I never know what I've unlocked.
Are you saying that when you unlock a collectible in the campaign, it doesn't automatically unlock?
Oh no, I'm talking about the battle pass. So when you get a tier in the battle pass, and the unlocks show up, hey, you completed this tier. Here's what you get.
No, go and find it.
You can't equip it right from that screen. You have to go back
Yeah.
into the customization screens in order to find it. Like Dave said, find it and then equip it.
Yes.
It's fucking stupid.
It is stupid, because then it's oh, I forgot. I got a hand attachment that I can do, but I don't know what core it's for, so I'm just gonna have to look at all of them until I find it.
I'm gonna get on a fucking soapbox here if we keep talking about this.
I'll tell you what,
so many
Josh.
things
We have episode 7 or 8 is all about the season 1 battle pass and the fractures event and stuff like that. So if you want a soapbox to stand on, we'll invite you back for that one.
Please do. I have thoughts jotted down from where they were released, so please.
All right, guys. Well, thank you thank you the listeners for joining us. Like I said, Infinite Impressions is what we're going to be pushing for the next few months here at Podcast Evolved. You can find all of our episodes for past series and for our other shows on our website, halopodcastevolved.com. And you can listen to HCS Pro Talk and their collection of episodes on their feed. And I think they even have a page on our website as well. And do you guys have your own website? I think you do, at least to host the show, right?
Yeah, but let's just talk about your guys' website, because 1, it's your home for Halo, and 2, our page looks better on your site than it does ours. So we'll just say that.
That's because we have an Ian. That's the only thing.
We do have an Ian.
True.
And Ian is our secret weapon that truly holds the podcast together, along with the Patreon, which, if you want to learn a bit more about being a patron of the show, you can visit over at patreon.com/HaloPodcastEvolved. You can learn more about the rewards and other rewards that I've spoken about earlier today. And then lastly, if you want to leave us a voicemail about your Infinite impressions, we will... I'm going to say no spoilers now, because we have to listen to them. I guess if we get a voicemail someone who's completed the campaign will listen to it first, so someone like David doesn't get spoiled. But if you want to give us some infinite impressions and we can share it on our next news show, you can give us a call at 205-EVOLVED, which is 205-386-5833. I've been your host, Oran, and with that, everybody, evolved!
Evolved!
Evolved!